Welcome back, everyone. It's another episode of the Steel Target Paint Podcast. I'm Jeff Jones, and I'm the loud one. And the one everybody,
I see a lot of heads.
but
People
yeah,
are
everybody's going,
people,
yeah, tell us something we don't know.
yeah, people are in their cars right now, just nodding up and down, like, yep, got it.
And as always, I'm joined by Steve Foster, my partner in crime on this podcast. This is podcast number 102. I can't personally thank you people enough for everyone that is taking the time to listen to us. I believe episode 101 is well over 500 listens, which is phenomenal.
And that's just on SoundCloud, right?
That is just on SoundCloud. Yeah, we don't have
Yeah.
all the rankings with regards to, listening to it through iTunes or Spotify.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just through SoundCloud. So
That's good.
really cool. Well, Steve, we definitely have a hot topic to talk about today.
Yeah. You want to talk about surveys? Is that what we're going to talk about?
We're going to talk about surveys. We're going to talk about the limited optics survey. There's been some very interesting banter going on back and forth on a couple of the Facebook groups. And, I'll be honest with you, full disclosure, going into WSSC, I was one of those people that said, we have a place for LO. It's called Open. So
I remember the conversation.
I was there, and it was all of the classic arguments. It's a race holster. You both use a race holster. Both got a 2011 platform. You've both got the open gun can have a compensator while the limited optics gun cannot. But does that really matter if you're shooting minor power factor? Is a compensator really making that much of a difference? Both get a thumb rest. Both get a magwell. And so what's the big difference? It's slide ride versus frame mounted. And with the transition time that happens in Steel Challenge, probably not a big deal that frame mounted versus slide mounted makes a difference. So I used all those arguments.
Hey, Jeff, let me stop you real quick. I just want to make sure I understand, because you're a lot closer to the USPSA side than I am. In limited optics, in terms of the division, that is correct, though. It has to be a slide mounted optic. It cannot be a frame mounted optic, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Just want to clarify.
Definitely that rule is in there for USPSA. We had a great question asked on one of the Facebook posts today. What are the rules going to be for that division? And, my answer was, let's find out if it's going to be a division first. And, Zach had also chimed in and basically said, they would be modeled after what we have in LO with for USPSA based on specific things that are different for Steel Challenge. So, but frame mounted dots are definitely not legal. It must be a slide mounted dot.
And I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, because I want to back up to the survey itself. But one other technical question, again, because you're a lot closer to it. In USPSA, if I've got a Glock 34 MOS and I'm shooting that in carry optics, I can then take that same rig and shoot it in limited optics, correct?
That is correct. You could actually take that same rig, put your magwell back on, and shoot it in limited optics.
Okay, so like the SIG Legions come with the magwell, and you have to take them off.
Correct.
Or it bumps you to open.
Correct.
Okay.
Which is very interesting, because now you're looking at if you are shooting a carry optics gun and you have a magwell, you would get bumped to limited optics. You would not get bumped right to open.
Okay.
Should
Okay.
LO become a division? Again, I'm not saying it is. Please, nobody, don't read words into this. Should that become a division, that would be part of the rule set. In Steel Challenge, the bump is to the next viable division.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's back up for just a moment. Let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about the survey and what the intent or purpose of the survey is, and then we'll go from there.
Well, actually, let's jump back even further to before the survey,
Okay.
where, for, I'll say, a couple of months leading up to WSSC, there was a lot of questions that Zach Jones was getting. Are you going to add limited optics? When are you going to add limited optics? Don't add limited optics. All these different things that people were saying to Zach. And Zach and I talked, and Zach came up with the idea that said, hey, why don't we just have an informal one question survey at the World Speed Shooting Championships just to get a temperature gauge on limited optics?
Like
Nothing.
and the intent is just to see if this is something that we want to entertain, or is it five people that just spent $8,000 on a limited optics gun, or 5,000, or whatever
Exactly.
the number is, and they want to shoot it in Steel Challenge?
Exactly.
Well, whether they actually will or not, maybe that they don't know that, right? I don't know.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's just kind of to check the temperature.
It
All
was
right,
just
carry on.
a temper check, and quite frankly, again, it the results of that survey were pretty even. Half the people said they would shoot it, and half the people said they wouldn't shoot it, because it was a simple, if limited optics was a division, would you shoot it? That was the one question.
Right.
But based on the fact that it was 50-50, Zach and the committee decided, hey, we need to have a bigger survey to all members. Hence the survey that's out there right now. And
Okay.
I think everyone listening, if you're listening to this, please go take the survey. It's 5 simple questions.
Yep.
And be honest.
Done.
Be honest. I mean, if you're never going to shoot limited optics, answer you're never going to shoot limited optics. If you say, well, we don't need limited optics, but I'm never going to shoot it, how that to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Right.
Like, I'm probably never going to pick up an iron sight revolver again, but I'm not saying we don't need it, even though it's one of the smallest divisions.
So I've got so many questions for you right now, and it's tough not to get into detail. So
ask away, and I'll tell you what I can answer. Again, I'm only part of the committee. I'm not on the. I'm not the. Zach is the director of Steel Challenge. I'm not on the board. I can just either give you what I know, or my opinion, or that.
And just because I think that what we've seen is a lot of people that listen to the podcast know what the committee is that we're talking about. And as we've seen with Steel Challenge, that it seems like every couple of years we get some new people that that come in. So for newer people, what is this committee you speak of?
So it's the Steel Challenge committee that consists of Zach Jones, myself, T-Rex Colvin, Steve Wright, and trying to remember who the board member is. I think it's Russell. And we are coming up with the recommendations to the board for the changes in Steel Challenge, whether that be rule changes. We just had some rule changes. Those recommendations came from the committee. When the time comes, the recommendations for peak time changes will come out of the committee.
Got it.
And so with Zach getting a lot of communication from a lot of people, That's where the whole concept of, you know, to LO or not to LO.
Yeah. So
And
to say it in other words, though, Zach being the director of Steel Challenge, and I'm sure he captains the committee, he got some feedback and listened to the members, and so Zach brought it to the committee and said, "Hey, look, I got some people asking about it. Not sure if it's really a thing, but in order to, to see what the members really want, that's kind of the purpose of the survey, right? It's really
that
to
is
solicit
correct.
feedback."
That is
Okay, okay.
correct.
So, and I don't want to go down another rabbit hole, but at some point, maybe we need to get Zach on here because I've had, and if you monitor social media, I've seen some questions as well about, who makes up the committee, and thank you for running through who's on it. And, is there a term limit on this committee? How do you get on the committee and those kind of things? So maybe at some point we'll have Zach address that. But I think widely speaking, uh, with USPSA, there's definitely maybe more so on the USPSA side than Steel Challenge. Maybe that assessment or judgment is unfair. It seems like there's not a lot of listening to folks, and maybe some rules get changed and those kind of things. And so that's why the Steel Challenge Committee was formed, to make sure that we're in touch with the membership. And I say we, I'm not on it, but to make sure that there's feedback and those kind of
Exactly.
things. But
Exactly.
so so maybe at some point we'll get Zach on. Okay, so let me back up to one more thing, just in terms of detail.
Hmm.
Limited optics, is it an official division now? I know it
It
was
is nothing.
provisional.
It is not. No, it's not. Okay. In USPSA, it's provisional.
Yes. Okay, that's what I was thinking.
In
And
USPSA, it's provisional. It was either the last board meeting or the board meeting before that. They voted to keep it provisional for now.
and do you have any, because I know you're a data guy, so you either will definitely know this answer or you'll have a good guess. What percentage of people are shooting limited optics in
I
USPSA
honestly
right now?
don't
Do you?
know. I don't know
Okay.
that in USPSA. I can speak from my club, but is a club representative of
Yeah,
the
sure.
greater membership? No.
It,
Um,
but it's a data point.
so I think we're getting, based on the day, based on the weeks leading up to the Carry Optics Nationals, there wasn't a whole lot of limited optics being shot because everybody that was going to nationals was shooting Carry Optics.
Yep.
But we've seen a lot of probably 10 to 20% of a match
Huh, that's not bad.
is shooting limited optics. It's I know a lot of guys that converted um their old limited guns from 40 to 9 and had the slide cut. I know a lot of
Got
people
it.
that bought new guns.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um I don't shoot much USPSA anymore. Um I went a completely different route with regards to Steel Challenge in that I'm never going to shoot my 9
Yep.
millimeter single stack anymore. So I bought the optics mount for my slide for the dot I wanted to use. And I put
Yep.
the thumb ledge from my old 40 on it. And that's my limited optics gun now. Should it happen? And I realize that up until that point, when I shoot, I am shooting an open. I'm well aware of that. And so a lot of people are going, well, why don't we allow such and such into, why don't we allow 2011s in carry optics? Solves the problem. Why don't we just make them still shoot and open? And
Right.
they're all valid arguments. What really I want to wait and hear what the membership says. For me personally, what I started thinking of is where's the harm? There's enough people that are out there shooting limited optics guns. And I will raise a question that was raised to me that I know was near and dear to your heart, and is that, well, why don't we create a 22 revolver division?
I love 22 revolver.
Okay. Because to date, I know of about 6 people that own 22 revolvers.
Let me be bold and throw something out there. If we had a 22 revolver division, you will have more entries at the World Speed Shoot in 22 revolver than you do in Iron Sight revolver. You want a piece of that action, Jeff?
It's an interesting concept. But you also raise a good point here, and that is something that a lot of people I don't think realize, is that based on the rules, which we follow, and I'm not sure if it's actually in the bylaws, but I definitely know it's in the rule set, peak times can only be established through data collected at the World Speed Shoot.
Sure.
So this is why we can't just create the division and have peak times associated with it. We've got to wait till it gets shot at the World Speed Shoot. The first thing we've got to do is get it provisional.
Yeah.
And that first thing that's got to happen is going to be based on what happens from the survey. And so while I appreciate everyone's opinion, it should happen, it shouldn't happen, I'm taking the position that says, let's wait and see what the survey says.
Yeah.
Is it 100% scientific? No. Do I think that some people, if you ask a question, if limited optics was available, would you shoot it? People will go, sure. And they may never do it. I get that. I get that. The goal, I think, one of the goals in doing this is trying to follow the rules based on the organization's bylaws as to what it takes to make changes. And so we're trying to understand, is this something people want? If it is, okay, then we take the next step. We get it provisional, and then we start collecting data. If you remember years ago with rimfire rifle, there was an uproar because we made a major change to the peak times. Because people freaked out because they were set too low or set too high, if you will.
Yep.
And a major restructuring of the peak times per stage needed to be done because people learned how to shoot it fast. I mean, you remember the day when, man, if you could break 70, you were kicking.
Oh yeah.
And don't get me wrong, for me, it's still a level that I'm trying to attain. But it's not going to win a match anymore.
Oh yeah, not even close.
Not a major match. You've got a good chances of being strong at your locals based on how who you're shooting against. But yeah, at a major, Jesus, it's being in the 60s is good job. Here's your position in the prize table line, but you're not going home with a cup.
Oh yeah.
So go ahead.
The other thing though to back up though with USPSA and Steel Challenge and kind of where it came from, right, is that not every division in USPSA is a division in Steel Challenge and vice versa. As an example, unless it's something changed recently, there's a limited 10 division in USPSA, and I'm not gonna say there's never, but there's probably never going to be a limited 10
the fact is, yeah, it's a good question, and the fact of the matter is, none of the efforts put forward for limited optics and Steel Challenge are because of USPSA.
Agreed.
Just because it's provisional in USPSA, it has nothing to do with whether or not it goes into Steel Challenge. It's driven because there's been informal questions asked to Zach that warranted where we are now, having a total membership survey out there.
Yeah, and rightfully so, right? Because I don't know what went first, because that was just a little bit before my time, or I was right at the cusp of it with PCC as an example. But in USPSA, there's one PCC division. There's not
Correct.
PCCO and PCCI. There's PCC.
There's only one revolver division
That's
in
correct. Yep,
USPSA.
that's correct.
And there are
And
no
some people,
22 divisions.
yep, yep. And some people are trying to throw out the revolver division out of USPSA. But so, what's the purpose? So we've got what is there 11 official divisions in USPSA and 13 in steel, or is it
No,
seven? Seven.
there were 8, and now there's 8 with the provisional limited optics.
Okay,
So
8.
9.
Thank you. That's right. It was 21. You're exactly right. Okay. So what's the conversation? So we'll sidestep limited optics for just a second, but yet it's intermingled. And if we need to get Zach on to have more of his leadership and direction, so if it's an unfair question, stop me. Has there been discussion with the Steel Challenge Committee to evaluate other divisions, specifically dropping divisions, or not yet?
No. No, there isn't, because in the last 10 years we've not given out 2 world championships.
And that's Iron Sight Revolver?
Yeah.
Okay.
At least, I take that back. I think it was at least the last 7. I definitely know for the last 7. I don't remember going back. There might have been before that, but because I remember the number was 91, and that would be 13 divisions times 7 is 91. So in the last 7 years, there's been twice where we haven't given out an Iron Sight Revolver.
Okay.
Other than
what's
that,
the minimum? What's the minimum? 10?
10.
Okay. So let's war game this a little bit. What is the harm? And again, let's put limited optics in a box and put it on a shelf, because it could be the same conversation with my 22 revolver, but that's another story, Jeff. That's another story.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the harm of adding, let's say, 5 more divisions to Steel Challenge? What's the harm in that? Let's kind of talk through that, and then I want to flip the coin
That's
over.
probably a question I'd like to have Zach answer from an organizational perspective. I can answer it from my personal side. That says,
let's do it.
If there was a reason, i.e., people are asking for it, not a person, but a number of queries like Zach received about limited optics warranted that, then we'd follow the same procedure.
Sure.
Okay.
So let me take a quick step at it. I haven't thought through it completely, but my gut feel is that the disadvantage of having more divisions, like let's say 5 more or 10 more, so you're going up to 18 or 23. And I use that as an example because when you start talking about adding 1 that turns into 3, that turns into 5, the argument I don't think is overly different, just because, let's add 1 more. And, let's just add 1 more. It's kind of like gun control. Well, let's just put this rule in place. What's this one rule going to have?
Right.
Or let's put this other rule in place. Before you know it, you're like, I can't do anything. And I use that as kind of an absurd example just to illustrate a point. I think what happens when you proliferate the amount of divisions is the competition gets a little bit more spread out. You got people that are top shooters that start shopping divisions, and
Disagree.
Hey, who's not shooting this and who's not shooting that, those kind of things.
I love you, man, but I completely disagree.
All right, tell me. So if you had 18
Jesse
more divisions,
Jesse Misko won 5 of the 6 low ready divisions. What shopping around is he doing? Lance Bratcher was in the top. Jesse Grant was in the top. Okay, so they're not shopping around divisions where they think they can win. They're shooting guns because they like shooting those guns.
But if you had 5 more divisions, but if I
have 5 more divisions,
you have 5 more,
if I have 5 more divisions and again, there's that interest in wanting to shoot it, and people are gonna do that, and they're added, and there's gonna be championships for them. Then it's just another gun that they're going to be able to shoot. Very different than like a USPSA, okay? Where yes, you can shoot, you can, work your open now, and you can work carry optics, you can go back to limited, you can jump around, maybe put in some PCC. It's all based on what you want to do. But at a match, you're shooting one gun. Okay? And at a major, you're shooting one gun. So we got the Open and PCC Nationals coming up. If
Yep.
you shoot
Yep.
both, you got to pick one. That doesn't happen in our game. Okay? You can train multiple guns, and you get to shoot multiple guns at the world speed. So the dynamic is different in our game. So
I just think, but you're not going to shoot, and I'm using this again to illustrate a point. I'm not going to shoot 18 divisions at the World Speed Shoot, nor is
course
Jesse
not.
Grant, nor is Jesse, nor is so on and so forth. And
18 divisions, no.
So what?
And let's face it, 13 divisions, no. Okay. But I will tell you right now, and it varies year to year and person to person, based on who's going to shoot. But if I look here and I go name and do count and sort that descending, okay. Let me do it by year 2024. I'm just going to use this year. Okay. 2024. Tim Guerrero shot 8 guns. Lance Brancher Sr. shot 8 guns. Lance Brancher Jr. shot 8 guns. Andy Unsel, Jesse Mystical, and Rick Bush all shot 7 guns. That's over half the divisions. So it is done.
That's a lot of shooting.
No kidding. No kidding. So does it happen? Yes. Generally, the biggest number of guns that people shoot is 2. Okay.
So what's the downside of adding divisions?
What's the downside? Well, there isn't a downside other than the fact that effort that goes into, okay, now I've got to come up with 13. I've got to come up with 8 more peak times.
Yep.
Okay. Which and it's got to be shot at the World Speed Shooting Championships. So within the rules, I can calculate the peak times. So it's not an issue of whether we could. It's not an issue of whether we should. A lot of it comes down to it's an issue of how long it's going to take to get it done.
Well,
and then you look at it and you go, okay, why don't we have I read somebody a 25 caliber division. Why don't we have this? Again, you can do all that, but when you start looking at even like area match or a state match, there's still a minimum number of competitors that is recommended before any kind of awards are given. So while you may see, taking your bet to beat the 10 ISRs, I think, that were this year at the World Speed, and you say, well, I think I can get 10 rimfire revolvers there. That's great. But if there's only 10 people doing it in the organization, we've created a division for 10 people when there's
Yeah,
well
and I
over
think
thousands that are actually shooting the game.
yeah, and I think that that's one of the reasons why I don't shoot single stack as much. And locally, not a lot of people shoot open, so that's why I don't shoot open that much. Is
Mm-hmm.
because I want to try to be. Don't get me wrong. Let's go shoot single stack tomorrow because the 1911 is the Lord's gun. In case you're wondering, Jeff, everybody should shoot 19.
So
Everybody should
I'm
shoot
not
single
going to
stack.
disagree.
Anyway,
I'm not going to disagree because, like I said, my current limited optics gun is my old single stack, and my
yeah.
open gun is actually a single stack open gun as well. So I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
So I think though that okay, it costs a couple more bucks for trophies, blah blah. But I do think you do dilute things down a little bit to the point that where you mentioned at an area match, and it could happen at the World Speed Shoot, like what you mentioned with ISR, is the more you spread that out, some of those other divisions, I think may go down as well, and not recognize more people. And I think what some people think is that if you add more divisions, well, we can give out more trophies. Well, you may not be able to. And I think the other side of the coin is, well, why don't we just have, like back in the day, and this is before my time. We need to get Kurt Grimes on the podcast, the godfather of rimfire. But he shot out in Pyru where it was an open match, an iron sight match, and then you had a side match of 22. And so really, I think you had like 3 divisions back then. Before things, don't get me wrong. I think that you could shoot production or limited. It may have been single stack as well, but they all qualified together for the title of, like, I apologize. I know I'm messing this up, and I do apologize for that. But I think it was, an iron sight handgun. So they all competed that way. So I think what's happened, though, is the more divisions that have surfaced, we found, and there was a lot of people back in 2016 that pistol match, all that other nonsense. And look at what PCC's done. It's taken over.
Exactly.
Same thing with the
And
rimfire guns. It's taken
I'm glad
over.
you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up because
Yep.
if in 2014, if people had taken the attitude that said, why do we need rifles in Steel Challenge? We got pistols. Why do we need rifles? We would now have 2 of the largest divisions in the game.
Yeah, I would argue that Steel Challenge wouldn't be where it is today. And a lot of people, well, yeah, back in the heyday. Well, I wasn't there now, but I've seen it evolve from, World Speed Shoot 2016 to be, 237 guns or whatever it was, to 600-700 guns in the matter of a couple of years. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's
a lot of it is situational too, and I'll tell you. I know last year, Area 2 had like, I don't know, 15 or 18 open optical sight revolvers in the match.
Yeah.
Now they're shooting at the Hogue range. So the Hogan plate, that's a geographic thing that they've got going there. In general,
but I will say,
a lot.
But I will say, and I've said it before on the podcast, there's 2 things that help Steel Challenge be what it is today, which I think it's probably stronger in a lot of regards, just in terms of the number of competitors and the guns being shot, is the classification system that rolled out in 2017 was huge. And then the second one is what we're talking about, to allow PCCs, rimfire rifles, and it really changed people's interest. It went from this super competitive pro level center fire, which is expensive, and don't get me wrong, a lot of people now that started in rimfire to get them into the game have spent thousands and thousands of dollars on rimfire pistols. Ask me how I know. And rimfire rifles and those kind of things. But it's because the barrier of entry in Steel Challenge, I think the bar got lower, meaning that I didn't have to have a $5,000 gun, or I didn't have to have, I'm not shooting, 25 cents a round. And I know the price of ammo's gone up and down, and it used to be cheaper to reload. But even back then, the when I was loading, centerfire at 12 cents a round or 11 cents a round, rimfire back then was way cheaper. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think it's a good.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me approach it this way. You're saying that LO is going to dilute other divisions.
I'd say,
Correct?
oh, but I'm
You
not
there?
saying that at all.
Say that again.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm on one side of
Nah,
the
you're
coin
going
versus the
digital
other
on
side
us,
of the
Steve.
coin is discussion points.
Okay, start again. You went
Crap.
digital there.
Hang on.
I'm going to leave that in so everyone knows that I'm not making up
Can you hear?
Steve's words. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No. My point was the discussion points of what people are saying about if there's too many divisions versus not enough divisions, to have a conversation around what are the pros or what could be considered the pros or what could be considered the cons. That's
Okay.
it. For me personally, Jeff, I don't look, man, I've got all the guns I want to shoot right now. Hey, if I want to shoot my 22 revolver, and I've said this 1,000 times on the podcast, gives me an excuse to go see our friend Ed White up in Kentucky at Metal Madness.
Right.
Look, he's got, no center fire, so it's all rim fire. You can shoot an optical, and essentially an open rifle or pistol, an iron rifle or pistol, again rim fire, or an optical revolver and iron sight revolver. I think there's 6 divisions. That's it. No center fire or anything like that. And what's the least division shot? Iron sight, rimfire revolver. I don't think anybody shoot. Well, I say anybody. There may be 1 or 2 people. And there's probably a handful more than that shoot the optical sight revolver. And then of course a lot of people shoot, rimfire pistol open, rimfire pistol iron, as we know them, rimfire rifle open, and rimfire rifle iron. So, yeah, to me, I don't care. I say I don't care. I personally believe that there's a limit, and we're probably at the, hey, if the organization changes and the people really want limited optics, and we've got proof in the pudding because it's growing on the USPSA side, I think they're pretty comparable. When PCC took off and Steel Challenge or USPSA, they both kind of happened at the same time, maybe at a different rate, and I think Carry Optics was the same way. So I think we should listen to the people, and that's what Zach is trying to do, is just to solicit interest.
That's my
Say,
point. That's my point. What I'm trying to make here is that
but
there are.
what I would say though, Jeff, is that if we do add a division, I think, me personally, if we add one like limited optics, we need to chop one. I believe that. I think there is a point where you proliferate things and it doesn't mean as much. I do believe that in my heart of hearts. And we got plenty of guns and divisions to choose from.
So are you going to tell the production winner that, sorry, there's going to we're adding a new division and we're getting rid of production, even though there was enough to give out a world championship out last year? We've decided production's going to die because we only want to have 13.
No, I would tell the people that shoot iron sight revolver that, hey, tough, put an optic on there. You're getting old anyway. Well, that's exactly what I say, Jeff.
I have met Mike Willoughby, and I am not going to tell him that. Okay.
Sorry, Mike.
Well, here, I guess here's my. Carry Optics was instituted in 2015 at the World Speed. Yes, I only have World Speed data, so everyone's going, what about I don't have all the data for the other matches, but I definitely have World Speed data. So since 2015, it was added, okay? Now, if you look at Open from 2015, the average number of guns was 49.9. 50 guns, okay? A year, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The lowest, like this year, we had 51. Last year, we had 48. The previous year, 45. 49 before that.
Sure.
So it's staying pretty consistent over the last couple of years, right around that 45 to 50 mark. Okay. Carry Optics, it went, I mean, literally the first year there were 2, then there were 4, then there were 14. Then there were 24 in 2018. Then since 2019, it's run between 40. This past year, we had 49.
That's pretty respectable, right?
I would look at that data and go, there's been no delusion of delusion. Is that the right word? Disillusion. I'm making up
Delusion.
words now. I'm making up words.
Delusion.
Delusion. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm having a delusion.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's been no dilution of open from carry optics. So where a lot of people are going, limited optics is going to dilute the other divisions. I'm going, I would take the different approach and go, you don't know. There's no way to know. And you could turn around and go, what if it adds 50 new people that, granted, I'm talking about the World Speed Shooting Championships. What if it adds 10% to every match out there because now people can shoot the limited optics division with a limited optics gun because they don't have a carry optics gun. Again, I guess I'm taking the approach that says, because this is the don't. I was very from my heart thinking about it before Worlds.
Sure.
And trying to be very analytical about it. And now I'm going, let's find out. Let's find out. Let's find out. Let's let it be provisional for a while. Okay? And if it proves that nobody's shooting it, I will be the first one to stand up. I will get on this podcast and go, I was wrong. I think I don't and we can also look at the impact of the other division. Okay? Because we could go through the organization, they can do the analysis looking at how many new shooters are coming into the game. And by new shooters, it doesn't necessarily mean new members. You know, you might get USPSA members that have never shot Steel Challenge that are now shooting limited optics. And you may not. They're very different games. Okay? And I get that. But we don't know until we try. And to your point about rimfire revolver, you don't know until you try. And you know what? The same argument holds. The only difference is there hasn't been this outpouring from multiple sources asking about. And not everybody that asked Zach about LO was coming at it from, are you going to add it or when are you going to add it? It's been more, are you going to add it? We're not sure. Well, I don't want you to add it. So, I mean, it's not just all positive or questions that are being asked. They come from both things. And that's why we've got the survey out there. Same kind of thing. I mean, if there's 120, 50, I don't know what the number is. But if suddenly there was a lot of people that are out there going, oh my God, this iron sight revolver is so much fun and so different than RFPO, then yes, maybe it does warrant being a division. The logic that I'm using for limited optics says there should be no difference in logic for a rimfire revolver division. You can't use one and not the other.
So what I've heard through all this is, Rachel, Wildy, are you out there? And I know there's a couple other my peeps out there. We're sending emails to Zach Jones every day for the next 6 months so we get our rimfire revolver survey out there. That's what I heard.
Well,
Jeff.
It's not the quantity of emails, Steve. It's the unique emails. Unique person.
Hey, I'll send him some pictures now.
I mean, again, there are, going back a number of years ago, shotgun was part of Steel Challenge.
Yeah.
Seen a shotgun in a Steel Mail Challenge match lately? Now, it was a side match, a match in and of its own.
They cleaned off some plates with it at the World Speed Shoot.
Yes, they did do that. Okay, but again, the interest waned in that. Okay, and it's no longer shot. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that they weren't shooting the same. They were not shooting outer limits with a shotgun. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. They definitely had a different set of stages. And I don't believe they were 5 plates. want to think one of them was at least 3. But again, the game has evolved tremendously.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you
Absolutely.
look back, Double Trouble's a classic stage. When Greg Kearse at the Volusia County Gun and Hunt Club started the Ultimate Steel Challenge, which had the 4 retired stages: Double Trouble, Triple Threat, Zigzag, and Flying M. And it's so funny because Flying M was a stage that you actually moved forward on.
Mm-hmm.
But Double Trouble and Triple Threat were kind of what you would think. Double Trouble had 2 plates, Triple Threat had 3 plates. But again, that's back when the game was predominantly, in fact, it was just centerfire pistols. So out of the holster, drawing and hitting 2 plates fast worked. That first year he did it, and the low ready was right below the first plate. There were some scary fast draws that were happening on that rimfire rifle. I mean, I remember I think Chris Barrett might have pulled something like less than a 0.3, probably somewhere in the realm of like in the 0.1s. It was crazy.
It was like 0.2 or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the following year it was great because what he did was he said, okay, there's going to be a start stick on the left and there's going to be a start stick on the right. You can choose which one you want to point to, but you ain't pointing right at the plate anymore.
Yeah. The other thing that I heard is we need to employ a statistician, because just because you add a division and people start shooting it doesn't mean that it pulls directly out of the division that you think it does. So you need to understand what the correlation coefficient is to each of the divisions for the division that you add. So there's got to be a PhD in mathematics that can help us out with this.
Well, I think, it's a really good point, and I don't know if he's got a PhD in mathematics, but I believe that they do that type of analysis on the USPSA side. So that would be a very similar analysis to happen on the Steel Challenge side, because it's very important. Are we just shifting people around divisions, or are we actually bringing in more shooters, or are we having more gunshot at matches? Again, a lot of matches allow multiple guns. My matches, because they fill up everybody shooting a single gun, I don't have multiple guns. But I shoot at a lot of matches, local matches, where people are shooting 2 guns. And
Sure.
so you've got to take all that into account. And for me, the answer is, let's wait and see. And then should the survey warrant a recommendation to the board to make it provisional, then start going through those processes, then get it provisional, then start collecting data on the provisional to then say, okay, this truly is worth it, or, everybody said they were going to shoot it and nobody did. Which again is a data point that says it's not worth having.
Yeah, my gut feel it does. My gut feel was, 13 divisions is where we need to cap it at. But I'd like to change my position, Jeff. I think we need 83 divisions. That way I get to buy a gun for every one of those divisions. No. Check that. Check that. Not 83 guns, because
you need 100. You need 166 because you got to have a backup.
Yeah, because I don't clean the ones I got. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. I love it. Yeah,
that's funny.
Man, it's awesome.
That's funny.
We're doing gun match. Doing. Hey, honey, look.
It's not me, honey. Blame the organization. I had nothing to do with this.
That's Steel Challenge organization. That's Zach Jones. She knows Zach, so.
Well, to be honest with you,
that's so funny.
For it, against it, I appreciate everyone's comments on Facebook, and realizing that everyone is allowed to have their own opinion, and I appreciate everybody's opinion. But just because I agree or disagree with it doesn't make the opinion more valid or invalid.
Yeah, but to back up kind of where we started with this whole thing, though, is that I think it's a great thing, and it has spurred some discussion, which is great.
Yes.
Is the organization is, and Zach specifically, is looking for member feedback, and at the end of the day, what else? You may not like the end result, but at least you have the option to quote unquote vote, and that's the important part.
Yep.
I still though the important part still though is getting more guns, get more guns. I'm yeah, I made
Yeah.
up my mind.
Yeah. That's good. So let's see what else is going on. Oh, well, it took me a day to put my van back together.
Did
You know,
you?
yeah, well, I did the big trip to Worlds and then visited Illinois and then back down to Area 5 and then
I don't know why I pictured you. Maybe because my daughter's been watching these shows. I thought you came across the border from Mexico. They took your van apart. My daughter's been
no, it
watching
wasn't
these
that
shows.
bad.
Oh my gosh.
Although as a college student, I did have that experience crossing the Canadian border.
Oh,
So
that's a whole different
a whole
podcast.
different border, whole different reason for ripping your car apart. But no, so and then there was a week off, and then the following week, which would have been I guess last week, we did Disney, and
Awesome.
so we needed to have it was myself and my granddaughter and my son and my daughter and two other grandkids. We didn't have a vehicle that could transport everybody when you're looking at car seats and booster seats. So I tore my van down and had all the different pieces and parts in the garage and we shipped everybody off and I'm like, okay, I finally get to put the van back together. Everything needs to be in its place. And so now I feel like I'm not naked anymore going to the range because I have like all my guns and my rigs and my ammo and timers and all that stuff. So I just, I'm sure everyone was very concerned about my shooting van. So,
They sound really concerned, Jeff.
oh well, everyone feeds me a lot of lip service. Oh yeah, great, your shooting van it looks great. Everyone. Let's face it, everyone's looking for the bumper sticker. Okay, that's all they care
They
about.
are. They are. And I promised myself 2 years in a row that I was gonna buy a big pink lollipop to put on the back, and I still haven't done that yet. It does look a little like a kidnapper van. I'm just
Well,
saying.
well, you know what I wanted to do, and I don't know if I talked to you about this, but I did talk to somebody about this, is that I was going to have a shirt that said, "Hey Steve, you may have a home range, but I'm retired."
Yeah.
That's about the only comeback I have. So
No, that's a pretty big flex, sir. The home range is a pretty big flex by itself,
oh,
but
absolutely. There's no
re,
doubt about that. Oh, speaking of home ranges, my home range is the Wyoming Antelope Club.
so we've
And
heard.
we actually did some maintenance on the bay that we shoot Showdown on.
Okay.
Not there was no critical maintenance that needed to be done, but I if you remember, there's been a number of times where you've been at the match and it's been raining.
And a lot of mosquitoes. Carry on. Tell me
A lot of
more.
mosquitoes. So the mosquitoes I'm working on on a weekly basis. But as far as the rain is concerned, we would get tents put up and we'd get them as high as possible. And you get some tall people in there and they're looking at the bottom of the tent. So this weekend I actually went out and bought the corrugated roofing plastic
Yeah,
and
yeah.
have and is now on top of the bay, um, slightly pitched. We have that corrugation over both shooting boxes. So we don't even have to set up a tent anymore. And in the summer, it's even better because now you've got the sun blocking you. So
Nice.
yeah, we'll have to see how it happens when it rains. The greatest plans fall apart as soon as it rains. And so I got to find out, do we have any leaks? And if we do, then we'll fix it. But
Yeah, yeah.
right off the bat, definitely the sun is huge. huge diminished. You know, you just don't have that heat beating down directly on you. Of course, everybody has that happen at a outdoor range, but the WAC is such a different place to shoot that when you do have that sun beating down on you, it feels a little different. So, anyways, that's what I did all day Saturday was build a covering for Showdown, and so we'll see how that goes. I've got the night match this coming Saturday, and then we've got the morning match where we'll actually shoot Showdown, and maybe on the next podcast I'll be able to report how it went.
Sweet.
Now, have you, now, you know, that's the other thing you know, that we've gone through those two things, but there is one little thing that I'd like to ask you is that have you been doing much shooting? Because quite frankly, I haven't.
Man, I'm telling you what, I've just in the last, like, let's call it 8 days, crazy, man. On not this past Sunday, Sunday before, I heard I was out in the shop painting some guns and stuff like that. And I came in, took a shower. It was probably like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, Sunday night. Hear a loud bang. I mean, when I say bang, it was like a boom. I was like, oh man, oh man. I was like, did the shop blow up? I mean, it was pretty darn loud. I looked out there, good, not smoking, and then all the power went off. I was like, oh man, like
Uh-oh.
what have I done? That coincidentally, that's exactly what my wife said. What have you done? So get out there, and transformer out behind my house, it actually exploded.
My
And
gosh.
I got a picture of it, or actually some video, but I got a picture. So I'm not sure if it was a squirrel or something like that. The power people are like, yeah, sometimes squirrels gnaw through that. I hate squirrels, so it got what it had coming. But anyway, so the fire people wouldn't put out the fire, so the pole actually burned. I mean, I'm like, what? Aren't you guys gonna do something? Like, no, it'll be fine. And you know, the neighbor came over and putting out, the potential forest fire. I was like, holy cow. So long story short, we lost everything in our refrigerator, and it's just been one thing after another. And then less than a week later, so this past Saturday, my clothes dryer took a dump. Dude, I can't even I don't even want to tell people what the numbers in the last 3 months, how much money I've spent on medical bills and vets, and just, yeah, it's been one. Pool pump took a toast. Then the
Oh, I
that
had
guy.
mine go last
Oh,
year. Last year going to Worlds, I lost a fridge. This year going to Worlds, I lost a pool filter. So I get it.
I, dude, and then my salt cell took a toast. Then my AC went out. I mean, I'm just like, I'm hemorrhaging money over here.
You know what you need to do?
Oh,
You need to write a country song because you've got all the pieces and
I
parts you need. I mean,
I
you know,
I
how's the
thought
truck? Because if the truck breakdowns, you've hit like for the cycle here in a country song.
I'm telling you, man. I thought for sure what you should do is get a pole and start dancing. I don't know, man. I ain't that
No,
pretty. I
you
don't
want to,
think.
Steve. You want to earn money, okay?
I know,
I love you,
right?
man, but nobody wants to see you on a pole.
But dude, the last 3 months, don't get me wrong, things have been worse in the past, but the last 3 months alone, I've spent a significant that's a significant amount of money just on bad stuff happening.
Oh, man, I
World
know.
Speed shoot, I fell out. I had to go to the hospital. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Well,
Like, dude,
hopefully
it's
it keeps
been
getting better. So, but yeah, I have. So you haven't been shooting, needless to say, and
the,
neither have I.
the
And
answer is the answer is no, not in the
yeah,
last week and a half.
I mean, for me, part of it was, you know, timing with matches, and then we're kind of in the rainy season right now. Um, that second, third weekend of the month tends to be real busy at with regards to matches, and of course my training classes. But I usually try to get some practice in, and I didn't even do much of that last week. Um, I think part of it was I did personally uh spend a lot of time on the guns. I was shooting it for Worlds. Um, but you know, that week at Disney and not shooting and all that, it was like this is kind of nice just taking a break. So we got to get back into it. But the last thing I
Oh,
want to Go ahead.
Let me tell you this. I got one exciting. I have spent some money lately too,
Okay.
outside of bad stuff. And you may be surprised by this. Others will probably be surprised by this. But on the 4th of July, I bought my first suppressor.
Oh, okay.
So that's a lengthy process or very involved process. Not too bad. So I'm waiting on my hopefully even when we talk, man, I still got time. Maybe I'll get my certification hey, you're good to go to pick it up. So we'll
Now,
see. We'll see.
are you allowed to engrave it and change the coloring and do all the
Oh
fancy
yeah.
stuff that Creekside can do?
Oh heck yeah.
All right. Well, we can't wait to see it. I saw the revolver.
Yeah, I
Is
love
that
that
your
one.
work?
Oh yeah.
That was
Yep.
gorgeous.
I
Absolutely
appreciate
gorgeous.
it. I
Well, listen, this
appreciate
has
it.
been a lot of fun. I want to close on just kind of running through for everybody what matches are coming up this weekend.
Fantastic.
We've got not only the Area 1 Steel Challenge Championships, but the Canadian National Steel Challenge Championships are this weekend. Um, Last weekend in July, Area 8. First weekend in August, Area 7. So, I mean, these area matches are getting banged out. That first weekend in August, we've also got the Colorado State. Second weekend in August, Kentucky Steel Challenge Championships, their state championships. Middle of August, the Ely Area 2 out in California, run by Kurt, who you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Area, let's see. Oh, here, let's see, 824. So that would probably be the third weekend in August. This is one called the Cameo Classic. I think that's a new one. Out in Colorado. And then rounding out August is going to be the Maryland State Steel Challenge Championships. And I just
Mm-hmm.
really want to run through September, and mainly because it touches on a match that I'm going to. So we've got the first weekend of the month. We've got Indiana State. Third weekend of the month, you've got the East Coast Steel Challenge Championships. And then at the end of the month in September, you've got Area 6 in Valdosta, Georgia. And the reason why I wanted to get that far is that I'm going to be working Area 6 for Jamie. And I would hope that we get a big turnout for that match. Jamie, I was not able to make it last year due to some health issues with my dad. Um, barring a similar situation, there's nothing that's going to keep me away from that match. Now you went last year, didn't you, Steve?
Yeah, loved
Area
it.
6.
Always have
You
a great
going this
time in the
year?
match. Yep. Absolutely.
So hopefully people will take that weekend and get out there and shoot. When it was the South Georgia Steel Challenge Classic, I think he called it. Um, Put on real well. I like the stages. Outer limits on cement, kind of like Area 5.
Yep.
Really lets you move fast. You don't have any brass or sand or dirt or grass under your feet. So makes for some quick transitions. So
Hey, let me ask you this, Jeff. You still have the calendar open?
right in front of me.
Go out to the end of February, beginning of March. Is that out there yet?
Oh yeah, it is. Here it is. Hold on a second. It would happen to be February 28th, which I'm going to also do a little self-promotion. Happens to be about 2 weeks after the West Florida Steel Challenge Championships, but the match you are talking about is the 2025 Creekside Custom Georgia Steel Challenge Championships
At Pine Tucky
at
Gun Club.
Pine
So
Tucky Gun Club in Blythe, Georgia. So this actually popped up in my email, and I'm glad you brought it up because I definitely wanted to talk about it. Congratulations on being a match sponsor. That's fantastic.
yeah, it's you know, given a lot to the sport, and what better way to help support my home state. So looking forward to Alan putting on another amazing match. They do such a great job there. So looking to be a part of it for sure.
That is another one that I'd hoped to go to and then ran into health issues with my dad.
Yep. Alan in the group. It was hot as woo. It was
Well,
hot over
that's,
there, son.
when I saw you guys moved it to February and being 2 weeks after the West Florida match, I'm like, oh my God, this is phenomenal. This is phenomenal. Shoot, I'll get prepared, shoot my match. Hopefully everybody comes down, shoots my match like they did before. We set the record last year. And then 2 weeks later, boom, another major. And I'm pretty sure he's shooting the Speed 6 like we do at the West Florida Championships.
I'm not sure if it's confirmed or not, but that's what we did last time, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, one other quick question. Any update on the World Speed Shoot location? I haven't heard of one yet.
No update yet.
Okay.
Well, I have not heard anything, and again, being on the committee, it's a one-way thing. We would hear that from Zach once he knows. But once there
Yep.
is a signed contract, we will. Zach and the organization will definitely get that information out so people know, and hopefully sooner than later we're going to find out.
Awesome.
About that. So good question.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we've bored these people enough with me talking and you answering some great questions. So I say we call it. What do you think?
Sounds good. It was great talking with you, Jeff. And
Same
then
here. You know
just
what?
a reminder to people, if you didn't get out, you didn't get the message for the last hour and 7 minutes, make sure you your voice is heard and fill out the survey, and I'm sure there'll be more questions or involvement from the members coming up soon. So appreciate Zach and everybody that's working on that.
Excellent. Yep. And don't forget, people, ST Podcast 10 for 10% off on your order at therangestore.net. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.